Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this afternoon's webinar, Sage 50 Accounts, and we're going to be looking at the VAT return, specifically step 1 and 2. So preparing and reconciling with ease, as the screen says in front of you there. Hopefully you can all see that. My name is Matt. I'm going to be guiding you through the process today, making sure you've got all answers to your questions throughout. But let's go through what we're going to be looking at first off. Firstly, I'm going to be doing a little bit of an introduction. The session today is going to be mainly a demonstration. Again, as is often the case with Sage, sometimes it's better seeing than just hearing about what a process is. So there's going to be a lot of demonstration in Sage 50. We're going to do the preparation for VAT return, and then we're going to reconcile the VAT return afterwards. The third part, which is obviously submitting, we're going to cover that tomorrow in the follow-up webinar. So if you haven't registered for that, register for it now, just to make sure that you're going to be there in attendance, because that's the cherry on the cake, essentially. So today we're just going to look at the first 2/3, and then obviously the final third tomorrow. We have tried to do it in one webinar before, but it's just too long, if I'm honest. So we've split it over 2 45-minute webinars. Now, at the end of that, we'll have a look at further support and questions. Now, with regards to the rules, if you don't know them, here they are. If you do know them, then here's a refresher. You're automatically muted. So if you are going to cough and sneeze, you are not going to interrupt me whatsoever. If you wanted to sing along with the radio during parts that you know already, do not worry. I'm not going to be hearing or listening to judge. You're fine and fair and dandy there. There is a copy of the slides, a handout which is attached. I'd suggest downloading that now if you haven't already. There's a colour and black and white version, one obviously for printing, the other one if you want to have it on your desktop, but it contains links for you, helpful links that you can click on. And they are basically passages to our help guides and instructional videos that we have on these processes. Not only that, you will receive an email later today with a copy of today's webinar. So if you get interrupted for whatever reason, i.e. what I was saying before, you're singing along to your favourite song, you're going to be able to re-watch the webinar at your leisure. So have no fear. Other than that though, there is a speech bubble there with a question mark. That's for you. So if you do have a question, use that button and submit your question to me. It's just me today. There's no support. So if you do have any questions, please be patient. I will be getting round to them. If I can't get round to them, I'll answer them afterwards. I'll send you an email. And because it is only me today, the rest of you aren't going to see the questions that are going to be asked. We always get that as a little bit of feedback. I didn't see any of the questions that were asked. And that's because we're not answering them in writing. I'm going to be verbally answering them, the ones that I can. So if you do have a question, fire it in. I'll try my best to get them all done and dusted. Without further ado, that's the introduction taken care of. Demonstration is going to be next. What are we going to be looking at? Well, we're going to be looking at preparing the VAT return and reconciling it. Stages 1 and 2, as I said before. You may have done this before, you may not have done this before. It might be a refresher, it might be first time around. I appreciate it can be a daunting process to do, but don't worry. I'm going to guide you through all of that, okay? Make sure that by the end of this webinar, you aren't daunted by a VAT return at all. I'm not going to say you're going to be enjoying it. That might be a bit of a stretch, but you will not see it as so much of a task once this webinar is complete. We're going to be using the VAT return wizard. Apologies straight away if I say VAT, force of habit, but we're going to be looking at the VAT return wizard. And the two differences that we've got is obviously one is UK and one is Ireland, depending on the settings of the PC that you're using, depends on what kind of VAT return is going to be run, quite simply. So if you have your regional settings to UK, you're going to see a UK VAT return. If they're set to Ireland, guess what? You're going to see an Irish VAT return. You can see some of the slight differences there in front of you. So on the left-hand side, you've got the UK version, and the icons at the top specifically, you've got scale charges, VAT return, EC sales, EU reverse charge. On the right-hand side, you've got the Irish, which is VAT return, VIES return, RTD, VAT audit, etc., etc. And that's because of the differences in the processes, essentially. The UK also are MTD, making tax digital. So there are differences in the submission, which we'll cover tomorrow as well. But mainly at this part, the eagle-eyed amongst you will see slight variations. Now, I'm going to be using the UK version because that's what all my PC settings are set to. But the handout, again, does contain information on the Irish version also. So have no fear if you do feel a bit lost. The processes are nigh on the same, if not similar. There's just a few subtle differences, but we'll cover them off at the end just so that you're fully aware. I've now talked at you for 5 minutes, and you've had to listen to me go on about differences between this, that, and the other without actually seeing the program yet. So let us jump straight into the demonstration that we're going to be looking at today. So hopefully you should see my slide in front of you now. And as you can see, I'm in a company called Demo VAT Return, a company that we created just for this process. So there is not a lot in here, not too many transactions, 2,387 altogether, but it's been set up for the purpose of this. So the process that I'm running may be quicker than what you experience, but again, that's down to a lot of things. The data size that you have, and also the hardware that you're using at the same time. So, these things just to bear in mind. If you think, oh, this is taking ages, or Matt's was dead quick, but mine's not. Bear in mind there are going to be differences along the way. So let us begin. From this screen here, the good old home screen, to the left-hand side, guess what? You've got VAT. We're going to be clicking into there. If you are clicking along, I'll try and be as slow as I possibly can do. So we've got VAT, and this is a list of all your VAT returns, or VIES returns in Ireland. But this is where everything's going to be listed. Just to briefly go through the columns, you've got the return number. You can see number 1 and 2 are missing for me. That's because I deleted number 1 and 2. Doesn't suddenly start again at 1 and 2. Doesn't regenerate. Those numbers have now gone. If I was to do 6 and 7 and 8 and delete them, the next number would be, guess what? It would be 9. Then we've got the type, which is a VAT return. You've got the period in which it runs through. You've got the amount. You've got the status. Has it been submitted? Has it been paid? Has the VAT been transferred? Again, we'll cover these off tomorrow. But this is what you're going to be looking at. Now, one of the most common questions and calls we get as a former technician myself is when I click on VAT return, it's showing me my old VAT return, which, as you can see, what I've just done there. How do I stop that from happening? Well, again, the eagle-eyed amongst you may have noticed that I've got one highlighted. If I don't have one highlighted and I click VAT return, it creates a blank one. And that is quite a common call, that. So always, what I would do is make sure you do the old swap, clear, swap, clear. That selects everything and deselects it. It works in all areas of the program. So if you were to select a variety of customers here, you could go swap, clear, swap, clear. There we are, little tip for you there. So today what we're going to be doing is a VAT return. So without anything selected, swap and clear again, I'm going to click on VAT return, top left. Now this is a fresh, right out the packet VAT return, ready for us to begin. The first thing I want to be doing, and you're going to get sick of me saying this, is back up. You cannot unreconcile a VAT return. It cannot be done. So if you do this process, you prepare the VAT return, you reconcile the VAT return, and then you see, oh, I've made a mistake here. Unfortunately, like Hansel and Gretel, you're going to have to follow that trail of breadcrumbs as to what the mistake was and unpick that issue. Whereas if, like we suggest at the top of the screen here, you just take a backup, just restore back to that backup before you did anything. Create that insurance policy, create that safe point to which you can return. As you can see, my last backup was on the 31st of May 2024. That's not very good. So we're going to quickly back up now. And I'm going to do data files only. And what I might do here is I might call this pre-VAT return. Because then I know, right, that's my pre-VAT return from 2024. So I know I can identify that now. And I'm going to click OK. Obviously, I'm going to check for errors because we don't want any errors in any numbers that we're going to be throwing up. No errors to be found, and the backup is then going to be complete. Again, this is a very quick process for me because of the size of the data set that I have. But now I know it has been complete. And guess what? It now tells me, yeah, 28th of the 5th, 2025. So it's taken me 2 minutes to labor the point there to you. Please, please, please back up before you do this and any other major processing in the system. Then we're going to move down to the date range. As obvious as it may seem, this is obviously going to be where you would select the date range of your VAT return. Before submission, because you could use this just to check your VAT liability for January. I'll show you how to do that. You could say, right, Jan 2024, I just want to see what the liability would be. And it would throw up what it would be after it's been calculated here. We haven't reconciled, so this hasn't done anything. I can just click back. All it's done there is shown me roughly what that period is going to be. So if your MD or your accountant or even yourselves, you want to have a quick glance at what the liability is going to be, nothing wrong with doing that at all. It's not going to break anything. And guess what? On the 1 in 3 billion chance that it might affect something, just restore the backup that you took up here. So what I would say is you can check your VAT liability, but once you know where you're going to be running it to, pick those months, and it'll tell you here, 3 months. You can use a custom date range to specific days if you want to. Again, I'm not going to labor that too much. I think we know how the calendar works. So you just pick your days that you want. I'm going to do whole months, so from Jan to March. As you can see, it's from the 1st until the end, full 3 month period there. Now, what you want to do is you want to make sure that this matches your submission period with HMRC or ROS, because you have what's called an obligation period where you're obliged to send them the correct period in which your VAT should be run. So just that's again for you to check, not for Sage. Sage will do as it's told, but you just check, is this the right date range I'm going to be looking at? And once you're happy with that, brilliant, you know it's all good. I'm just going to restart this process just so that we haven't got numbers in these boxes. So again, I've backed up. I'm going to pick the date range, March 2024, if this is what I'm going to run it for. Now this little button here, include reconcile transactions. Many a question is asked about this little button. And I've got to be honest with you, you shouldn't really be ticking it. I'll tell you for why. If you are, it means something's gone wrong somewhere. 99 times out of 100. So let's say I reconciled and I made an error and I didn't take it back up. And I reconciled because I got the dates wrong. And then I wanted to rerun my VAT return for that specific period. So let's say I only ran this from January to February. I got to this point and realized, oh, I've missed a month off. If I was to then go back, I've already reconciled the transactions. So if I was to run January to March, it's only going to include March that I left off, unless I tick this button here. And then it'll include all reconciled transactions from Jan and Feb. You risk then not picking up late additions, any changes or amendments. This here should only be pressed really if you've spoken to one of our technicians or been advised to do so. Avoid having to use this by clicking this, because if a mistake happens down here, this is going to fix it up here, the backup. Okay, not to go all teacher on you there, but it's always a common question. Oh, I've included the reconciled transactions, should be there. It might include some, it might not. It depends on the processing and what you've done. So it's always best to restore the backup or call a technician. We'll go on web chat. So we've backed up, we've selected our date ranges, quite happy here. And then we get to VAT verification. Excellent. So let's have a quick look here. What are going to be the verification settings that we're going to be looking at? Well, this throws up a menu of 8 checks that are run automatically when you calculate your VAT return. Sage will be looking for these things upon your instruction. It'll be looking to identify possible duplicate transactions, identify invoices or credits which have not been updated. I'm not going to read them all out, etc., etc. You're telling it this is a menu. This is what I want you to check, Sage. Now, examples. It's always good to bring things to life. So identify possible duplicate transactions is a good one. If you run a subscription service, $5.99 a month for 6 bottles of milk, that's cheap now actually, isn't it? But let's say $5.99 a month for your product or your service, and you've got 100 different customers doing the same thing. Sage is going to pick them up as possible duplicate transactions because it wants you to know, hang on a minute, you've got a lot of people here paying the same thing per month. So if you do have a subscription service of $5.99 a month for hundreds of customers, you might want to untick this, because then you're not going to be notified of every single person that's paying $5.99. Hopefully that makes sense. Another one here is the tax code. So identify sales and purchase transactions not using your most common tax code specified below. So here, again, most transactions we see tend to be T1, 20%. But let's say somebody's been in a rush on a Friday, got to pick the kids up, going away to the caravan for the weekend, whatever it might be. And some of the processing has gone a little bit awry, and they've selected T2, T3, T4, and it's not usual for your program. It's not normal for your processing to have that. When you run the calculation, Sage is going to say, hang on a minute, these aren't the tax code that you usually use, are they correct? Now, any of these VAT verification settings, Sage is not telling you this is wrong. I want to get that point across. Sage isn't saying this needs fixed. Sage is just flagging it. And the program's just saying to you, do you want to have a look at this? Because it's not usual. You've got 100 people paying $5.99 per calendar month. Sage doesn't know it's a subscription service, it just knows the numbers. So it's saying, do you want to have a check of this one? And the tax code. You don't usually use this one. Do you want to have a look just to make sure it's fine? So the good thing about the VAT verification settings is it is a menu that you get to pick from. I.e., if I was happy with these checks all the way down here, these 7, I could just leave the top one out. If I wasn't bothered about the tax codes because I use various different ones, I could just take a tick out of that box as well. So again, match these to your processing. These can be altered as well. Is the VAT rate more than 21%? Is it less than 18%? Again, if you don't operate in tax levels above or below, it'll pick those up. Oh, the VAT was 7% on this one. Do you want to have a look? Oh, the VAT was 44% on this one. Do you want to have a look? It's just flagging things for you. You can clear them, select them all, or you can mix and match. Completely up to you. But a lot can be done in this box, and I'll show you the benefit of it as we progress. So I'm going to, for the demonstration, I'm going to leave everything ticked, because obviously I want to show you the workings of the program itself. And I'm going to click OK. Now, as you can see, the left-hand side is taking care of itself. I'm happy with that. Right-hand side has not been populated yet because I haven't clicked Calculate VAT Return. And as soon as I do, these boxes are going to fill. Now in Ireland, the wording may be slightly different also. I believe it is 11 boxes at my last count, which was yesterday. So it does look slightly different. I'll show you a version of that once the demonstration is finished. So forgive if this isn't exactly how it matches. Okay, but then we're going to click Calculate. And what Sage is going to do is going to have a look through all the numbers between the date ranges that I've selected. And again, this is where those VAT verification settings have paid off, because it has found a couple of things, a couple of late postings here. And it'll say, you want to include these earlier unreconciled transactions. So they haven't been reconciled at all, bank reconciled or anything. And Sage is saying, I've picked up 2 anomalies. Do you want to have a look at them? Now, I've seen it as a technician before where there is pages in this screen. Ideally, there should be nothing in this screen because everything should be taken care of. If you do have transactions in this screen, and there's quite a few, and they're not in relation to the date period in which you're running here, so i.e. some historic transactions, what you might want to do, and I strongly recommend, is sending this to Excel and investigating and actioning those transactions. Should they exist? Should they be deleted? Should they be corrected? Should they be amended? Excel will bring you this sheet here, and it'll give you the list. And what I would do, and I've been through it before with clients, is highlighting them. Right, we've checked this one, that one's to be included. We've checked this one, that one's to not be included, that kind of thing. And once you've worked through that, you'll be able to know what should and shouldn't be included on here. Now, the bad thing, or not the bad thing, but the only drawback of that is everything in this screen is either ignored or included. There is no mix and match. You can't just select one or the other. If you click include, it's everything. If you click ignore, it's everything. So this is why when you print off the errors to Excel, you take care of those errors in your transactions section, or you ring a technician to speak to one of our team or on the web chat service, and they will go through it with you. Because let's say you've got 10 transactions in here that shouldn't be, you go to your transactions and sort them out, either delete them, repair them, whatever it may be. And then when you come back to this screen, they shouldn't be here. And if they are here, it's because they need to be included. Hopefully that makes sense. So this is telling me now, you've got a couple of transactions here. Tax code T1, should these be included or not? I'm going to say yes, this should be included. And once I include them, guess what? They're going to be on my VAT return. And then my VAT return is calculated. So what's the bonus of now having this populated and not moving? Well, essentially you can drill into this now. So if you wanted to examine box 4, VAT reclaimed in period on purchases and other inputs, you would just click where it says click here to see details. And this would bring up this box. You see the tax codes that you've got here. And I could turn around and say, oh, T5. What was the T5? I would double click into the T5 column and it would tell me. Ah, on the 15th of January, right, okay, I've got you. So I'm doing my own investigations here. T1, I want a breakdown of my T1. Okay, this screen's a little bit too small. I want to clearer. I'll click to Excel again and it'll send it to Microsoft Excel. And it'll give me a breakdown. So all you're investigating, all of the answers are here. You just may have to do a bit of digging around to find them. And that is if there is any issues whatsoever. So these are drill down boxes, are what they're called. And you can always have a look and see what is where and where the figures originate, essentially. Top left-hand corner, we've got view results, verification settings. So this is telling me that one invoice or credit has not been updated. I'm going to view, and then I can decide should that have been updated to ledgers. I can then leave, investigate that invoice, print it to Excel, do what I need to, and have a look. The same with this purchase order, but not invoiced. What for? There could be a lag on the service order here. Whatever is unique to your processing, this is where you come into your own with your investigations to find out why things are the way that they are. And remember, I said the tax code being one of the most common ones. It's almost like I prepared this. 2 sales and purchase transactions not using your most commonly used tax code. What would that look like? It would tell me T2 and T5. I can then go back to those transactions. They've got the transaction number here. And I could change the tax code if applicable. Or if I know them to be correct, just ignore them. Because I know that they're meant to be there. Again, this isn't Sage saying you're wrong. This is Sage saying, you know, a little warning sign. Do you want to have a look at this before you process it? Because the last thing you want to do is submit something with the wrong tax code, especially when you're doing a VAT return, because it's just going to cause more work down the line, isn't it? So use this to your best. I don't know why anybody wouldn't use the verification results. Only a few niche reasons why, i.e. the subscription model, etc. But view results and have a look at the numbers. Now, if you wanted to make adjustments, let's say HMRC have sent you a letter saying, right, okay, you need to make an adjustment on your next tax return. Box 1, you need to make an adjustment of £100 for whatever the reason might be, this is where you would do it. Your manual VAT adjustments. So you click on the pencil or the pen, depending on how modern you are, type in a reason, HMRC instruction, and then type the amount. Tab across, type 100. What also works in here is if they said, oh no, take it away, you could do a minus figure at the same time. So again, these are for adjustments. Now, when it comes, again, another tip, when it comes to adjustments, and hopefully I'm not going too quickly through this, but when it comes to adjustments, if it's a transaction or a sale or something that needs adjusted, it's going to be easier, believe it or not, to go back and re-input the transaction than it is to just put a blanket, you know, oh, actually, we didn't charge enough VAT on that one because we used the wrong tax code. So let's put 200 in here, because you're not giving yourself the audit trail. Because you can't really write War and Peace into this reason box. It's easier then probably just to resubmit the transaction itself, delete the original and replace it. Now, again, to go through that VAT correction or to go through a transactional correction, it's probably going to be a standalone webinar in itself. It's one that I run myself. So I'll direct you to our sage.co.uk/webinars and look for corrections. And I'll talk you through how to do that in the recorded version or in the VAT badge that we're going to be having imminently for your badging event. But yeah, this is where you would do, I'm not going to say the changes, this is where you would do your adjustments that you needed to do. Then I might want to attach a copy of that email or letter from HMRC that told me to do that adjustment. I would browse for the file here, attach it. That's just for your records. You're not going to send that as part of the VAT return. They've already got it. But you know, if your records, again, Sage being an audit tool, keep as much as you can. But this is what these would be for. And in a nutshell, if it is something transactional, look at the possibility of just re-entering the transaction. Then we've got reports. So you can print your VAT return. If you click that, it'll tell you what to include. Do you want the full summary, the detail? Again, this is a menu that you get to pick. I'm just going to have a look at the standard VAT return for now, because again, reporting, it's one that Michael guides people through exceptionally well on management reports, etc. It's a 45-minute webinar itself. I'd guide you to there if you want to know more about the VAT return reports and what you want to run and how you want it to look. But this is the standard. Quite basic. What I would do, another tip as well, and I tell everybody to do this, you might never need this. But there's nothing wrong with saving a copy to your desktop and popping it in a little folder that says VAT return 24-25 period. It's better to not need and have than to not have a need in that instance. So Neil's asked, for what reasons would you consider making adjustments to a VAT return? But the example I just gave there, let's say you received an instruction from HMRC that you owed or you overpaid VAT, they may instruct you to make an adjustment. It's dependent on the scenario. It's a very unique scenario. And if ever you do need to make an adjustment to your VAT return, the first person I would speak to would be the accountant. And if you are the accountant, it would be HMRC. Why do we need to make this adjustment? They'll instruct you best on that. But it's always going to be somebody qualified in that arena I would speak to first and direct you to. But good question, you'll keep them coming, please. Thank you. So yeah, so print your VAT return, also your reconciliation reports as well. Again, depending on what reports you want to be running, depends on what you're going to select from that window. So this, you've got your standard VAT reports, you've got your transaction analysis, you've got all sorts there. Have a flick through them. Find out which ones you want to run. You know, it might take you half an hour to have a quick gloss over or even just read the descriptions. But if you're like me and you like to keep files and folders and everything documented, it is worth having a look in here because you might see a report that you never knew you wanted. You know, it's always best to have a bit of a look around and really get everything you can out of Sage when it comes to the reporting aspect. It excels at it. Pardon the pun. So yeah, once you've had a look at your verification results, once you've decided if you're making adjustments or not, reports also, once you've delved into there, you're going to reconcile your VAT return. Now, I've mentioned it a few times in the webinar already, but there in bold writing, you cannot reverse this process. Please ensure that you're happy with the values. So by that, again, quickly look at these drill down boxes. Are things how you would expect them to look? If not, have a dive in, have a look about. See what could potentially need changed. And if at the start, remember in the preparation, you took a backup, go for it. Reconcile that VAT return. If you haven't taken a backup, I would urge you to do so before you do it. You're making life 10 times easier for yourself just by taking a backup before the process starts. That's only just in case something is incorrect. So let's pretend I've prepared and now I'm going to reconcile. I'm happy with everything. Sage is then going to say to me, do you want to flag transactions as VAT reconciled? Well, yes, I do. Because I want Sage to know that I have VAT reconciled them. Again, I'm informing the software of what I want. Again, we strongly recommend you back up. I'm not going to label the point and think I've got that one. Click yes. What's going to happen then is everything is going to be VAT reconciled in your transactional, which I'll show you after this. And this window is going to pop up, VAT reconciled, like an old stamp in the olden days, accepted. Da, da, da. So it's all done and dusted. You've now reconciled your VAT return. You can still drill down into sections here, left-hand side, and have a look. You can still have a look at your verification results. Again, this is for your audit, this is for your record keeping. You can still print. And then this part tomorrow, we're going to go in. This is the last part. We're going to dive into that tomorrow. So sign up to that one. Be myself again, picking up where we left off. But essentially, as long as you've backed up at the start and you've just methodically checked everything that you want to check, you can't really go wrong. The only thing that could be wrong is numbers could be in incorrect places, and the only way that can happen really is processing. And we try and give you all the tools that we possibly can to help you investigate where those errors, if they have occurred, have occurred. Big tips to take away: send to Excel. It's brilliant sending things to Excel so you can just have a checklist of what transactions you're going to be looking at. On that note, I'm going to come out of the demonstration now because I'm running the risk of diving in into this one. I can feel it happening. But that's going to be tomorrow. So I'm just going to close this, and then you'll see tax return, VAT return 6, the dates upon which I ran it, the amount, the fact that it's pending because it hasn't been submitted, tax hasn't been paid yet, VAT hasn't been transferred either. If I was to double click, it will bring up that VAT return. Same as the other ones. If I was to double click, it will bring up the old ones as well. So that in essence is the wizard found on the left-hand side. Now the transactions that we ran and that were included in our VAT return, right now, if you see this column here, they've got the VAT reconciled, R means yes, space means not applicable, and N means no. You've then got VAT return number, what VAT return is that transaction on? Again, linking you to VAT so you can find that with ease. When was it done? And obviously the date itself was the 31st of March, not when I pressed the button, but what was the date it was actually VAT reconciled on, and that would be the last day of the month of the period in which I was running the VAT return for. Hopefully that makes sense. So click on home. There's been a couple of questions about the look of my Sage 50 that have come in. I'm going to quickly show you that now. If you were to wanting, like me on all of my PCs, to see it in a darker color along the top here, it's not a different version of Sage that I got. If you were to click on Tools, Options, and then Colors, you can set the dark theme. You can have the light or the white. It's up to you. You can also customize and line breaks, I used to call them. So if I was to just quickly set these, I'll show you. If I go to customers now, it's a bit garish for me that, but it sets it all apart. Forgot which other one, a quick supplies it was. As you can see, they're just line breaks essentially. Sometimes it can make it easier to see. Potentially not those colours though. It's going to take those away. Put back the white, but yeah, just a few questions on that came up. You'll also change the home screen as well if you wanted to. So instead of when you open Sage, you can click on home. You could have it at bank feed, apps and add-ons. You could have it at the VAT screen if you wanted to. Again, not detrimental or massively important, but just little tips that can help you. My eyes, at my age, I need the screens as dark as possible. Anyway, so on to more pressing matters. Preparing the VAT return, back to the slides here. So these are the differences between UK and Ireland, as you can see. A few boxes, some of the wording is different also. If we go to the second stage, the VAT verification settings in the UK is on the left, on the right-hand side is Ireland again. Just the wording more than anything, as well as the percentages in changes here. Not applicable, obviously, if you're in the UK or you're already set up for Ireland, but some accountants do both. So these are the differences that you'd be looking for if you're running both. The reconciliation or the reconcile VAT return window. Again, you can see more boxes on the right-hand side than the left. There's more to fill in, as well as the right on the completing of the VAT return. We'll go through that though tomorrow. Other than that, we have dedicated support for VAT. If you click at the top, Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and at the bottom, Republic of Ireland. So download the handout. These are specifically aimed at both categories. So download the handout and click if you need further advice or support on that. I've answered a few of the questions, but keep them coming in. We're actually going to get some time back. We're 8 minutes ahead of schedule at the moment, which is great. So if you've got a question, fire it in. While I'm waiting for those questions to come in, if you have a look at this. So grow your own knowledge, it's back. Bespoke training, one-to-one with our experts. They will remote into your PC with you and help you process how you want to process. If you want things set up, or just to know how things work, or just want a bit of tuition or a refresher, hour-long lessons, blocks of hour. So you could have 3 hours if you wanted, for example. But the guys are brilliant. They'll remote in, just like myself, and they'll talk you through these processes. And it's more unique to you than a generic kind of webinar in that instance. Get in touch via the email address at the bottom there. Does there seem to be any further questions that have come through? So what I want to do is just take this time to thank you for your attendance today. It's been fantastic. Good turnout. If you could complete the satisfaction survey for me at the end of the webinar itself, let me know how you think it went. Let me know if there's any subjects that you want covered in the future. We read absolutely every single comment that you leave. Feedback is precious to us, so please don't be shy. Let us know what we can do for you. And also, if you want to let us know what went well, that's even better. Other than that, though, because the questions have dried up, I'm going to leave you to the rest of your days. Thank you again for your attendance, and hopefully I'll see the majority of you tomorrow for tomorrow's session, which is part 3 of submitting the VAT return. Speak soon. Bye for now.